it's Zoe and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome! My name is Zoe. I am a born and raised Filipina living in New York City. So, you probably just graduated from college, or still in college, or maybe you graduated from years back but you want to know how to work in New York without US experience. Well, let me tell you something. I was the same thing 2 years ago. I was searching through YouTube, looking for someone that I can relate to with the same ambition that I had, which is to move to New York and work at an advertising or a digital marketing agency. And then I found nothing. Now it's not a problem anymore because I am going to help you with your frustrations. Just like you, I didn't have any US experience, a US university degree, or even just a job experience at a retail shop or a food service prior to my job right now. But I am currently working in a digital marketing agency in New York City. And how I do it is a long story, but we'll go over it in today's video. Before that, if you haven't, please click the subscribe button down below to get notified whenever I post a new video. And if you like this video, give this video a thumbs up. Let me tell you about my story first. I graduated in the University of Santo Tomas in Manila, Philippines. I took communication arts as my major, which was a good thing and a bad thing. Bad thing because our program is just too broad. Like, we've learned everything that it is in the communication world. PR, advertising, marketing, theater, production, and a lot more that I cannot think of anymore. There's just too much. But when you go after college, when you look for a job, you just tend to focus on one field. And for me, it was advertising / digital marketing. And the good thing about it though is whenever you go to different companies for interviews and you have all of these experiences, they like someone that is kind of like a jack of all trades. We are kind of known, our major in USD, we're kind of known as the jack of all trades, but master of none. However, I used that strength when I moved to New York and actually looked for a job. Well, aside from college, before I moved to New York, I also worked in a couple of agencies in the same field that I am right now. I work at an SEO company, and then after that I work in a digital marketing agency, which is kind of like similar to what I'm doing right now here in New York. So I have all of those experiences from college and then from work life, and then that's everything that I brought here in the States, and that's it. I didn't have any courses that I took while I was looking for a job or while I was waiting for, I don't know, I was just in my parents' house waiting for something to happen, but I figured I need to step up and actually look for a job in New York and just go for it. I don't think I've told you already why I wanted to go to New York in the first place. Well, the idea of going to New York didn't come up not until a couple of months while working. I always thought I'm just gonna after college, I'm just gonna work for a digital marketing agency or an advertising agency, become an account manager, and then a senior account manager, and then an account director. That was my dream. And I also wanted to work in a big agency, the big agencies in the Philippines, in a global digital marketing agency or a global advertising agency. That was my dream. But while I was working in the Philippines, I realized maybe I can dream bigger. since my family is already in the States, why not move to the States with them and go for New York? The dream, the Big Apple, the center of advertising where I wanted to be. I can dream big, I can dream more, but it just takes too much courage, more courage than you could ever think of, because New York is just so competitive, and my experience is nothing like no other. So how is it like looking for a job in New York City as an immigrant? Well, the thing about New York that I love the most, it is very diverse. People from different parts of the world go to New York for one reason and for one reason only. It's for the American dream, to be in the Big Apple, to be in New York City. And that's the same dream that I had. And one factor also was because I work in advertising, and New York is the center of advertising. So it was hard in general. And since people from different countries move here, there are more competitions. Just when you thought that you have this unique piece about yourself that can set you apart to other people, one person comes in and get that spot for you. So you have to be very, very, very prepared when you look for a job here in New York. In my case, I was about 2 months here in the States when I started looking for a job in New York. I went to Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and a lot more job hunting sites. And there's a lot of jobs out there. And one of the things that surprised me the most is that every day there's a new job listing. So there's like an unlimited opportunity. But then, as I've said, it's just too competitive. So you always have to keep an eye on new things going out. But also, not because there's always a new listing coming out, you need to prioritize what it is you want to get as a job. For me, I focused on digital marketing or advertising only, and I look for the account management role or something at the same thing, a project manager, account executive, account coordinator, something in those range. Because sometimes you get too excited looking at all of these new listing, and you just send and send and send resume, and then when they call you back, you have no idea what they do. So you also have to take that into consideration. So for me, I was sending hundreds and hundreds of applications to this company, but I can count on my fingers how many companies just got back to me for a call, for an HR call, or for another interview. And then it's not just that. It's either they get back to you and have you for another interview, or they just don't reach out to you anymore. So that was very hard for me. I wasn't used to that. I'm just used to going to an office, send your resume, they will call you back for an interview, and then just 2 interviews and you're done. If they like you, you get in. Don't like you, you don't get in. But here, my experience was so different. So for the companies that called me back, the HR will interview me for a first round of interview. The basics. Tell me something about yourself. Why do you want this job? Tell me your strengths and weaknesses, and all of those basic questions. And then if they like you, they will send you an email asking for your availability. The thing is, I was living in Virginia back then, but I was looking for jobs in New York. So they will ask if you're available to go to New York, or when are you available for a FaceTime interview. And I'm not the best, not that I don't know how to do like a FaceTime interview, but I'm not the best in screen to screen interviews. I want to see people in person. I want to see their emotions and get the feel of the room. So I just volunteered to actually go to New York and have the interview. And Virginia is just 4 to 5 hours away, so I just took the opportunity. So I went back and forth to New York to get those interviews, and I thought it's just gonna be a few rounds of interviews, but it ended up as 5 rounds of interviews to different companies. So you have to prepare to travel, or if you are willing to do a FaceTime interview, and since we're in a pandemic, that's the case, just be prepared to go on a series of interviews. But the questions actually are kind of similar, based on my experience. Tell me something about yourself, strengths and weaknesses, what are your experience, what do you know about this job, what do you know about the company, etc., etc. And what I noticed when I was having those interviews is that they look for your qualities, because technical skills can be learned, but your work ethics, the qualities that you have as a future employee, is something that is hard to build up, or it's hard to train. So they definitely ask you about experiences and how you handled specific experience. That's just an overview of the process, but I think you guys are here to know how I actually got my job. Well, that's up to the interviewers to tell you, but what I think got me an edge to getting the job is my story. I had the same story. Of course, I only have one story, but I stuck to a specific structure of my story to all of the interviews that I go to, because I think that part of myself sets me apart from other candidates. I mean, other candidates graduated from a US university. They had great internships in the US. And they have great experiences. But for me, it's outside US. They have no idea what I did. I mean, they can understand what the specifics are, but then they don't know what company, what specific brand I work on before, or what school I went to. So I made a good gist of myself, and that's how I presented myself to them. So this is how it goes. My name is Zoe. I am a Filipina. I just moved to the US 2 months ago, and I graduated from the Philippines. I went to the oldest university in Asia, even older than Harvard. And I wanted to move to New York because I want to be in the center of advertising, which has always been my dream, etc., etc., etc. So that's how I started. Like, the first line that I said instantly captures their ears. They know Harvard, they don't know USD, but now they know that USD is older than Harvard. And they know my priority, just with the line saying that I moved to New York because I wanted to be in the center of advertising. It means that I am very passionate about advertising. I took a leap of faith and actually went to New York just to grab that opportunity to be in the Big Apple. So that was my spiel, and I think that made me memorable. I didn't have the same qualities with the other great candidates, but I stand out. And I think that's why it is important that you know your story and you know how to market yourself to others. And of course, I think there are a couple more things that that made me get that job. Maybe through my experiences, although they didn't know what company I was working for because it's a Philippine company. They saw how I handled situations. They will ask you situational questions because they wouldn't know the specifics of your prior experience. And that's how they see that even though you don't have a US experience, even though you're not an American, you can still do the job. And that's the most important thing. So overall, as I've said, it's a pretty long story, and I know you're here for a more specific guidelines, but it would be more helpful for me if you guys leave your questions on the comment section below, so I can do a part 2 and actually go through each questions with you. There are a lot more things to take into consideration when going to New York. Expenses, applications, resume writing, interview questions, and a lot more. So I can tackle that in this series of videos about moving to New York. If you want to, just make sure to leave your questions or suggestions below. Again, so I hope this video is helpful. I'm always happy to share my experiences to moving here because I know a lot of people wants to move here, especially people from different countries, but it's hard to know in a perspective of an immigrant on how it is really like to compete with Americans in one of the best cities in the world. So I hope you like it. Give this video a thumbs up if this was helpful, and see you on the next video. Bye!
All this time I've wondered how I managed to live most of my life sleeping at night.